Hello everyone, and welcome back to Dream Team. I'm Trent Lankarski.
And I'm Alice Langlois.
And we are on episode 9.
I know, I can't believe it. Crazy.
We've had 9 dreams.
Only 9, but they've all been really good.
Yeah.
You know what's been a dream?
What?
Doing this podcast.
I think so too.
Alright. Well, I've got a pretty cool dream to share, if you don't mind me getting started.
Yeah, sure. Go right ahead.
This one's been kind of bugging me.
Uh-oh.
I'll be honest. I could have sworn I wrote it down, and the last week or two I've been looking for wherever I wrote it down. I write my dreams down in a few different places, which is not a very good idea, because then I don't remember which place I wrote my dreams in but I couldn't for the life of me find it. I thought maybe it was in my text messages or my notes app or my dream journal. I just couldn't find it.
I just use Notes app.
Yeah, I know I should just pick one, but sometimes I'm in a place where I don't have access to one of my journals. Anyway, It was bothering me because I knew I would be able to remember it more clearly if I could find where I wrote it down, and I swear I wrote it down, but I'm not sure if I did. I wasn't able to end up finding it. But for whatever reason, today it just all came back way more clearly to me. I don't know why. And I was finally able to just jot down a few notes before we recorded. But it was very impactful. It's not a very long dream, but I thought it was really interesting. So I'll do my best to recount it, even though I don't have my original writings.
Okay.
Anyway, it took place in this very colorful, sort of bright city. All the buildings were really bright colors. They were all very close to each other. The roads were very skinny, barely enough for a car. And there were no cars. In fact, there were barely any people. I kind of just appeared there. I didn't know where I was. And I had nothing except for a key ring with some keys on it. And I just started wandering around to try and figure out where I was. And it was a bright and sunny day. It was otherwise a very unassuming and pretty place, but there was just nobody. No people, no cars. And I finally ran into someone. It was this person. I don't really remember what they looked like, but they were wearing this sort of matching blue tracksuit situation. And they came up to me and were trying to get me to come with them, welcome to the neighborhood, you should come, hang out with us. I wasn't sure who us was. And they also really wanted me to give them my keys.
Oh.
They were like, oh, you don't need those. You don't need those. Just give them to me.
Uh-oh.
And they were super, super friendly. They weren't being weird, but I just got a really weird vibe. And I was like, no, no, thank you. I think I'm okay.
Yeah.
I just want to explore a little bit more. And the person didn't push it, but after that, I got a really weird feeling, and I started noticing more of these people in these same blue tracksuits everywhere, kind of in these roving gangs, all wandering around in groups of maybe I don't know, half a dozen-ish or more. And they kind of started giving me weird looks. I started getting I don't know, something doesn't feel right. And they literally every other person I saw was in one of these blue tracksuits, and they were all together except for me. And they were all doing the same thing. And eventually I got super paranoid, and I felt they were looking for me, and they were gonna try and take my keys and try and make me join whatever weird cult they were in. I remember thinking to myself this seems like some sort of weird cult, and I don't want to be a part of it.
Definitely sounds like it, yeah.
Yeah, it was really creepy. And eventually I just sort of ran far enough where I felt like I was away from them. I couldn't see any more of those people. and I came upon this really strange house. It was like, it looked like it had several stories, like 3 or 4 stories, and the bottom few stories were like the width of one house, and then at the very top story it was the width of 2 houses, if that makes sense. So it split into 2 separate towers at the top.
Oh, I gotcha, yeah.
And I remember it was sort of like a pale yellow color, and on one side of the top that was split into 2 floors, I could see through the windows that there were lights on. And on the other side, in the other floor, I could see through the windows that the lights were off and it was dark inside. And I just got this, like, weird feeling in my gut that, like, if I went into that, like, I got the feeling that my keys were for this house, and only I had the keys to go inside it, and that it was my house. And that if I went up to the floor with the light on, that something would happen afterwards. Like something would change about my life and it would continue on as something else. And that if I went to the floor that had the lights off, that everything would just like fade into nothingness, and that I had a choice which one I wanted to go to.
Ooh.
And so I walked up to the house and unlocked the door, and then basically like all the floors leading up to the floor where it split into 2, I had to confront like some sort of like unresolved conflict from my life. Like,
oh my goodness.
Some sort of like just like some feelings that I never like resolved for myself, whether it was like about another person or like something that I just felt like was unfinished business, I guess. So like I went onto the first floor, I saw somebody I knew who like I was kind of mad at in real life but never really like talked to them about it. And it kind of got blurry after that, and like there was something like that on each floor. And I woke up before I could get to those 2 floors, so I don't know what I chose, but when I woke up, like all of a sudden I like realized that dream was purgatory.
Whoa.
So like, and it like totally made sense. So like the people in the jumpsuit, the tracksuits, they wanted to take my keys because they didn't want to move on, or at least like whoever started the cult didn't want to move on and thought that moving on from purgatory was wrong for some reason. So they were finding new people who showed up in purgatory and taking their keys and saying, like, this is actually the afterlife, and you should just stay here because this is the afterlife, and it's all good. Like, you should just hang out with us, even though it was actually purgatory. But they were trying to like lie to people and trying to get more people to stay with them because I think they were just like either like crazy or too scared to move on, or like wanted people to think that they were right or something. So it was all these people who either like knowingly or unknowingly were stuck in purgatory in this weird cult of like people who believed that that was the real afterlife. But I knew that it wasn't, and I knew that like I either had the choice to like, I don't know if it was like reincarnation or like some other kind of afterlife that I didn't understand that was on the side with the lit room, but the other side was just like, you can be done. If that made like just nothing.
Whoa.
But yeah, like when I woke up, I was just like, huh.
That's some next level dreaming.
Yeah, and it was so weird because it was also like colorful and like kind of like almost like cartoony. Like it reminded me of the like Edward Scissorhands town with all the colorful houses, where like it's empty but like very bright and colorful.
Yeah.
Also, now that I think about it, I feel like a bright and colorful suburb does kind of feel like purgatory.
Yeah. I could see that.
Weird. But yeah, that was my purgatory dream.
Very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Purgatory is always like grayscale in a lot of media, so that's interesting.
And like sad.
Yeah.
But it
Or
wasn't.
scary.
It was like, it wasn't sad. It wasn't anything, which I think seems more appropriate for Purgatory.
Right.
Like it was just there. It was
bright but hollow.
It was bright, but there was nothing there. So it was kind of
Right.
empty, but empty, it doesn't have to be good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like I had the choice to move on in a way that I felt was appropriate, but I had to like deal with unfinished business in order to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wish I got to see what was in those rooms.
Yeah. Which one would you have chosen?
I'm kind of scared of dying, so I would probably pick the one with the lights on.
Okay.
But neither one was wrong or right. I felt like it, you know, whatever being put me there was like, you can pick either one and it's fine. It's up to you.
Mm-hmm.
So like the nothing wasn't bad.
Yeah.
And the lit room wasn't necessarily good either.
Right.
It was just my choice.
Interesting.
But yeah, a weird purgatory cult too.
Crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a much different dream.
I want to hear it.
Okay. A bit of a shift from the other one, but another classic Trent dream, very short. I actually had this one about 3 or 4 days ago, and I forgot about it. Like I must have dreamt it, woke up and just forgot to write it down. But like the other day I was just putting dishes away and I was like, oh my God, I had a dream. And
oh, you remembered it like way after you woke up?
Yeah, like a day or two after, I forget.
Whoa.
But yeah. Yeah, it was like I had the dream, then I fell back asleep, then I forgot to write it down. And then yeah, like a day or two later I remembered it and I was like, whoa.
That's pretty cool.
Surprise. Yeah. And it was just that I was here at my apartment. Right now I have three roommates, so there's 4 of us total. And we got like our electricity bill in the mail, and we're like, oh, okay, whatever. And we like opened it and we're like, whoa, why is it like $800? Like, what the heck? Like, that's like wicked high for what we usually have or whatever. And then for whatever reason, it had a breakdown of like each room. And, you know, it was like, my one roommate had like, I don't know, like $10. Another roommate was like $3. And my room was like $700 something of electricity.
Trent.
And so I don't know. I'm not doing anything different. I'm like, I have 2 lamps and my computer here. And like, that's it. But yeah. And then it was just, that was like the main part of it. But then there was kind of like a shorter second part where I was like trying to fight for myself. I'm like, well, like I didn't do anything weird or different, so I don't know why mine's more. We should still split it evenly. And everyone's like, no, like, no, your room had $700 worth of electricity. I'm like, I didn't, nothing changed. It's they're like, no, you have to pay it. And then I woke up, I think.
I knew it.
I don't really know how it ended. It was just kind of a nothing dream.
I knew I shouldn't have installed that 1 million kilowatt light bulb in my lamp.
Yeah.
That's like a very good stress dream.
Yeah.
But so comical.
Yeah. But very, very, very different from
the
yours.
room with the lights on was Trent's room, and he was just generating hundreds of dollars worth of electricity bills.
Oh.
In my purgatory dream.
The lit up one, yeah.
The other one was dark because I couldn't afford it because Trent was using up all the electricity.
No.
That's so funny.
They're LED lamps too, so they're like less electricity. It doesn't make sense.
Oh, it must be your sick gamer rig with your 5 monitors and rainbow keyboards.
I don't have any of that.
I can see it right here on Discord.
No, what? No. I have a laptop and then just a monitor and a drawing tablet, but the drawing tablet's unplugged if I'm not using it. Like right now, I'm not using it.
All right. That's a good dream though. That's really funny.
Myself.
No. I think that's awful that all your roommates were like, no, you have to pay it.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can see both ways of being like, well, it's clearly broken up, but also like we choose to split it either way.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I would have called the electric company. That's so funny. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, that's the only one I have for today. So, of course.
Yeah, that was awesome.
Thank you.
Hey, do you want to hear a dream fact?
Hold on, I have a magic 8 ball here. Let me check. Try again later.
Oh, man.
Oh, yes. Yes, I will.
Well, that's the episode. Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome. It's about someone that you might have heard of, maybe. Kind of an obscure historical figure. Goes by Sigmund Freud.
Yes.
You ever heard of that guy?
Oh, yes. I've heard of him many times in my studies.
Oh, wow. How educated. This guy, man, does he have a lot to say about dreams. I'm not going to talk about all of his dream interpretation stuff in this episode because there's way too much to unpack. And hey, we need content for future episodes. But he has a whole big book on dream interpretation that's literally just called The Interpretation of Dreams.
Excellent.
It was published in 1899, and he basically outlines a theory on this book of sort of what he thinks the meaning of dreams are, and at this point I think we've pretty conclusively proved that a lot of Freud's ideas were not exactly correct, accurate, or good, but they're still interesting to look back on. And his sort of basic idea about dreams was that they usually had to do with wish fulfillment. So something that somebody wanted, something
like paying $700 electricity bill.
Yes.
Interesting.
Any variety of wish fulfillments. I mean, I think when a lot of people think of Freud, they think of like, some sort of weird sexual desire or like deviant behavior that's like, in somebody's subconscious. Like, I think that's generally like the association people make. Like, oh, this person is like normal, but they dream about this weird thing because they secretly actually want to do it. And like, that's not, we know that that's not really true.
It's not? Oh.
I mean, maybe for some people, but it's not all that though. I mean, like,
I secretly want to use a ton of electricity.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe Freud would interpret your dream that way, or maybe what he might say is that you would maybe feel guilty about using too much electricity or water or something and are having dreams about it because you don't want to feel guilty about it anymore. It had to do with all sorts of things, but his basic theory was that dreams usually had to do with something that you were preoccupied with the day or 2 days before, and that it was some form of wish fulfillment. But what I thought was interesting was that he analyzed and wrote down a lot of his dreams in this book, but there was one that was sort of like, at least in reading about it, to me seemed kind of like the catalyst for this book, and I thought it would be interesting to read one of Freud's dreams on the podcast. Just because it seemed really interesting, and also because it seemed like it led to this pretty like important piece of literature, at least in the world of like dreams and psychoanalysis. So for context, the reason he picked this dream was because it was a dream about something that he had been talking about with a friend the day before, so that like checked off one of his theories. And And it had to do with what he interpreted as subconscious, like wanting, basically. So he had been talking with a colleague the day before. This was in, I think, like 1895, or around there, late 1890s, about a former patient of his who he called Irma, and he treated her for some kinds of health issues with limited success. It seemed like maybe he made some mistakes or didn't finish the treatment, or she didn't really want some of the treatments that he was providing to her. And he talked to his colleague and was like, how's she doing? And his colleague was like, she's doing okay, but like not great. And he had the following dream about it, which I've kind of abbreviated. So it was in a large hall, numerous guests whom we were receiving. Among them was Irma. I at once took her to one side, as though to answer her letter and to reproach her for not having accepted my solution yet. I said to her, if you still get pains, it's really only your fault. She replied, if you only knew what pains I've got now in my throat and stomach and abdomen, it's choking me. I was alarmed and looked at her. She looked pale and puffy. I thought to myself that after all, I must be missing some organic trouble. I took her to the window and looked down her throat, and she showed signs of recalcitrance, like women who wore artificial dentures. I thought to myself there was really no need for her to do that. And then I took this part out, but there's kind of a gross description of him examining the inside of her throat that I just didn't want to read on the podcast because it was kind of nasty.
Okay.
But yeah, he looks down her throat and sees some gross stuff.
Ew.
I at once called Dr. M, and he repeated the examination and confirmed it. Dr. M looked quite different than usual. He was very pale, he walked with a limp, and his chin was clean-shaven. My friend Otto was now standing beside her as well, and my friend Leopold was percussing her through her bodice and saying, she has a dull area low down on the left. He also indicated that a portion of the skin on her left shoulder was infiltrated. I noticed this just as he did, in spite of her dress. M said, there's no doubt it's an infection, but no matter. Dysentery will supervene, and the toxin will be eliminated. We were directly aware, too, of the origin of the infection. Not long before, when she was feeling unwell, my friend Otto had given her an injection of a preparation of propols, propionic acid, trimethylamine, and I saw before me the formula for this printed in heavy type. Injections of this sort ought not to be given so thoughtlessly, and probably the syringe had not been clean. So that was Freud's dream. Basically, he had a dream about this former patient of his and her still being in pain, and him and his doctor friends doing kind of a bad job at making her feel better. And when he woke up, he thought it was probably because he still felt guilty that in real life he also hadn't treated her that successfully and had maybe made some medical mistakes.
Oh.
And he was thinking that his subconscious wanted to be basically rid of the guilt that he felt for not doing a good job treating this patient of his. And he ended up writing this whole book about dream interpretation kind of because of it, which I think is really interesting.
Yeah. Very interesting.
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I thought it was fascinating that, like,
he had this one dream, and that was kind of like, oh, wait.
well, because it sort of proved he had this theory about why we dream, and was, writing stuff down, trying to figure it out, and then he had this one dream that basically proved his theory, and I think he just sort of ran with it, where it was like, okay, this is a dream about something that I was kind of preoccupied with the day before.
Right.
And also seems to have some kind of, at least in his opinion, deeper meaning about something he wanted in his life, which was to not feel guilty about this woman that he treated health issues for. But it was really cool to, like, I don't know, read a dream from, like, the late 19th century
Yeah.
And also like basically like somebody's old dream journal, like him sort of like trying to figure out and parse like what it meant, at least in his opinion. And then he did it so hard that he wrote a whole book that got translated tons of times and was huge in the world of psychoanalysis.
That's how it goes.
Mm-hmm. In a couple of years, you're going to see my dream journal on the shelf.
It is funny, like just even like the basic parts of the dream, it's just so parallel to the dreams we have now. It's like, oh, it was in like a long hallway. And then it's like, this guy was there and this friend was there and this other colleague was there. And I don't know.
Yeah. And also, yeah, like, you know, this guy was there, but he looked wrong and like walked with a limp and like his face looked different.
Didn't have
like
a beard. Yeah.
But like, I knew it was this guy.
Mm.
And then like they were doing things wrong that I think we shouldn't have done that, but this thing was off for that.
People be dreaming.
Yeah, forever.
Forever.
But yeah, I thought that was super, super neat. And I definitely want to like look more into Freud and like what his deal is with dreams for future episodes, because there's a lot. He had a lot of opinions about dreams. And also a lot of people have a lot of opinions about his opinions about dreams.
Oh boy.
But I wanted to, start from the source.
Yeah, I don't know too much about it, honestly. Like his dream stuff, to be honest.
Yeah, I didn't know he had a whole book on it.
Yeah.
So I definitely want to like look into that more. I know, like I said, it's kind of like, we're kind of at a point where we know that like dreams are # not that deep a lot of the time, and like that's totally normal and fine. But I think there is something to like at least people feeling like their dreams are important and like their dreams being important to them, which is like, you know, kind of why we're doing this podcast, because like we think that dreams are cool and important to talk about, whether or not they mean you have some sort of subconscious guilt. I don't really think, but people have been feeling this way for a really long time, and to have like whole books written about it, I think is really valuable. Absolutely, yeah. Well, excellent dream fact. Thank you. I've put together a couple of submissions. Maybe we could see if they have any deeper meanings. Ooh, okay. I'm looking at these. Do you want me to go ahead and start one of them? Yeah, and I'll state right off the bat. The first two of these are kind of leftovers from the baby dream episode. I found a few ones that didn't make it in time, and also a dream from our email a few months ago that also happened to be a childhood dream. So I wanted to lump these in. Oh, interesting. Cool. Mm-hmm. Well, I will go ahead and get started. All right, so I'll get started. So this first dream comes to us from Paulo, and Paulo writes, "Hello, Alice and Trent. My name is Paulo. I sadly don't remember all my first dreams in great detail, but I remember the weird theme that they had. All of my first dreams would take place in my neighborhood. I used to live on a very steep street with not a lot of car traffic. In those dreams, I could slide in the streets like if the asphalt was an air balloon. So I was just sliding down the street, and in every dream, my mom would call me. I didn't have a cell phone at the time, but people used to have flip phones at this moment in time. She would talk with me about her work and ask me to go to a certain place to have lunch. The funny thing is that every time I was in a call with my mom, the perspective of the dream would change, so I could see myself talking and her talking at the same time, like those scenes in cartoons where there's a diagonal line separating two camera feeds, and when a character hangs up, their camera would fade out. I remember in one of those dreams, my mom was asking me to go to McDonald's to eat lunch, but I keep saying to her that I kind of didn't want to go there because there was less downhill streets on that way, and I really wanted to keep sliding. But out of nowhere, Ronald McDonald hops onto the call to tell me that McDonald's has a Super Mario World arcade machine, and also roasted my mom because she had red hair just like him. Called her a clown in a very goofy and family-friendly voice. So a very, very funny dream from Paulo. Yeah, thank you, Paulo. I mean, the implication is that this isn't one dream. Like, they had a lot of dreams like this. just like sliding around their streets and like talking to their mom. I just thought it was funny.
That's cool. I like that.
Also,
I
like
the sliding.
Damn, Ronald McDonald didn't have to roast your mom like that.
That's funny too. Yeah. Yeah, like I like how you didn't want to go, and then but Ronald McDonald joins the call. I was like, "We have a cool Super Mario machine. You gotta come check it out."
Oh man!
And it makes fun of your mom. Yeah, very good.
Ronald McDonald in this dream is a very cool guy.
Mm-hmm. Not like that one other dream where you broke into someone's house.
Oh my gosh! Yeah, you're right. This is our second Ronald McDonald dream.
Mm-hmm.
That's so wild.
Yeah. Well, very good. Thank you, Paulo.
Thank you, Paulo. I have another baby dream from Brian. It's very short. But it's interesting. This also has to do with an interaction with the dreamer's mom, which I think probably sounds like it would be very common in childhood dreams, dreaming about a parent.
Right. Yeah.
So Brian writes, in one dream, I was walking down the street with my mom. Suddenly, she fell down a manhole. Every person I got to help kept falling in the hole. And that's it.
Whoa.
It's like, I mean, it's kind of upsetting, but also hilarious.
Yeah.
It reminds me
it so clearly.
It reminds me of this video I saw recently where I think a car had fallen into a canal of some kind or a body of water next to a road. And so they called a crane to get the car out of the water. In the process of getting the car out of the water, the crane fell into the canal. And so they got another crane to lift the first crane, and that crane fell into the canal. And it was just this like series of unfortunate road rescue events. It sounds a lot like this.
Oh no.
There's just all these people in the manholes like, help, help.
Yeah.
We keep falling down the manhole.
Oh. That'd be definitely be scary to have as a kid, though.
Yeah, I mean, if I had this as a kid, I would be sad.
Yeah, then everyone goes to help her, just keeps falling. No. Oh.
Well, thank you, Brian.
Thank you, Brian.
It's a good baby
that
dream.
That one also. For some reason, I thought you were gonna say those dreams of, or those videos where it's like people rescuing an animal, but it's like reversed. Have you seen those?
Or the classic one is Biden burying a dog during a campaign speech, right?
Wait, what?
there was an internet rumor that happened a long time ago. It might have been for Obama's election or something. It was on Tumblr. So it was a while ago. But someone made a fake internet rumor that Joe Biden buried a dog live on camera during a campaign speech, and it was paired with reversed footage of some people rescuing a dog out of a sidewalk.
Oh. Oh no.
So it looked like they were burying the dog.
I probably have seen that then, yeah.
I don't think anybody truly believed it, but it was circulated for a while. Oh man, memories. Anyway,
back to it. So the next dream we have comes to us from Sam, and Sam writes, "Okay, so I had a dream that I was riding one of those speeder things that the battle droids use in Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. Except which I think, if I'm picturing, just as an aside, I think the droids like stand on them. So it's like a pole, and then they kind of, it's almost like a pogo stick, but they stand on them.
Yeah.
And they like zoom around on those.
Yep.
If I'm remembering right. But back to what Sam writes, except it was built out of a toilet. But like the top part of the toilet tank. I rode through the sand dunes on the beach, and it dug into the sand and sped through the water. Drawing attached for reference. Oh boy. Yeah,
I Sam included a really great stick figure drawing to go with this that I will be putting on the Instagram. So check that out after listening to this episode. But for those of you who are maybe driving or not able to look at your phone, what Sam drew does appear to be a stick figure on a pogo stick-like contraption with a little tank on top with the little flush lever of a toilet and handles coming out the top. It's very good. And there's several, at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or 8 motion lines. So Sam is going very fast on this.
Whoa. Yeah, I just looked at it. Is a very funny picture.
Yeah. So check out our Instagram at Dream Team with Alice and Trent to see it.
Yes.
Thank you, Sam. It's very good.
Thank you, Sam. Yes.
Also, I don't know, that just sounds super fun.
Zooming around on the toilet.
Based mode of transportation.
Yes.
I've got one more dream from Titan, who, if you'll remember, I think we read one of their submissions on the last episode. And I included this one because, yes, I noticed a really interesting connection. You'll have to let me know after I read it if you can figure out what the connection is between this one and their last dream.
Okay.
So Titan says, "Hi," and a little like emote with the 3 mouth, like a little cat face. Haven't been able to remember most of my dreams this week, but here's what I can remember from the last one I had, and it's from April 25th. I can't remember much, but I was in a 2-story modern home in a room that had a loft with 2 to 3 of my friends. It was completely dark. It was nighttime, and it was as if the power in the house had gone out. However, the house we were in had some kind of glowing orbs and objects, all differing colors laying around. It made the ambience calming instead of scary. It was raining outside, and I remember looking out a tall, slim window and seeing a pond with tons of lily pads and a couple frogs in it. I said how I liked that there were frogs here, because I didn't have them where I lived. I do have frogs where I live right now, so I'm not sure where I lived in the dream. My friends thought frogs were lame, so they made fun of how I liked frogs so much. The last thing I remember was me and my friends filming each other goofing about. And that's from Titan.
Very good. And I think the connection is frogs, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
I thought it was so interesting that one of the very first dreams that Titan could remember was them looking at a cool frog, and then in this dream, which isn't from that long ago, was them being like, "Hey, frogs are cool." Seems like you like frogs, and I think that's awesome.
Very good. I like frogs too.
Also dumb that your friends thought it was lame.
Yeah.
Some friends.
How do you have negative feelings about frogs?
No friends of mine.
Unbelievable. Yeah, me neither.
Also, like, I don't know, I've always dreamed about, like, weird animals and mythical creatures ever since I was very young, and I still do now. And it's cool to see, like, I don't know. I mean, we haven't read, like, every dream that Ty has ever had, but write to us and let us know if you often dream about frogs, or if it's something that you particularly like in real life, because I think that's kind of an interesting, like, you know, I wonder if other people have that kind of thing like I do.
Yeah.
Or it's just like a recurring theme and you're like, oh, cool, this thing I like.
Yeah. Or if you have dreams like I do, where they're just short, dumb things.
About electricity bills.
Yes.
Also, don't undersell yourself. Some of the ones you read in the last few episodes, like the one where you're getting chased by that guy, man.
Oh, yeah.
Those are
a scary one.
Those are some pretty adventurous dreams.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably good that they're interspersed with ones where you have to deal with everyday issues, because it sounds exhausting if you were to have dreams like that all the time.
Yeah, for sure.
Anyway, thank you so much, everybody, for submitting this week.
Yeah, thank you all for the submissions. And I think that's pretty much it, right?
Yeah, that wraps it up for this week.
Yeah. And we mentioned sending dreams, I think?
Yes.
If you were to send a dream to us?
Please
we already plugged the Instagram, but yeah.
Please send all of your dreams to dreamteampodcastsubmissions@gmail.com. That's dreamteampodcastsubmissions@gmail.com.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if you had them yesterday, a week ago, 10 years ago. We want to hear them all. We'll read all of them. I know I've said this before, but every single dream we get in our email, I read every single one of them. If you haven't heard yours yet, I have read it, and it might appear in a future episode. So, yes. Never fear. Send us your dreams. We will read all of them, and we think that they're all super cool.
Yes.
And hey, tell your friends, or your family, or your dog.
Or random people on the internet.
Yes. Post it on your feed, or your Twitter, or your LinkedIn.
Or your Facebook.
Or your MySpace.
Or Snapchat, or your Reddit.
Or to your thousands of Tumblr followers.
Yeah.
That followed you for posting about Joe Biden burying a dog.
Which I think he did, actually.
I'll have to look back into that. But yeah, this is definitely a more the merrier kind of situation. The more people we get submitting to us, the more cool dreams we'll have to share with you all, and the more episodes of this podcast we'll be able to make. So definitely tell a friend if you can, or leave a comment or a good rating or review so that more people might find the podcast.
Definitely. And thank you all for listening already. We already got a decent amount of people. Like we said, the more the merrier, but thank you all for listening.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's really awesome to hear from you guys every week about how much you're enjoying the podcast, and we love making it for you.
Yes. Very much. I love this. I love making this show.
Yeah. It's been really fun. I love hearing from everybody, and digging into my own archives of my weird dreams.
Me too. Same.
Speaking of which, I gotta get to work making more. I'm getting pretty sleepy.
Oh, yeah, me too.
It's hard work making this podcast. You guys have no idea how much we gotta sleep to do this thing.
Yeah. I'm sleeping day after day. I'm sleeping night after night.
I gotta do it every night. Man.
Yeah.
It's hard work, but it's worth it. We do it for you guys.
Yeah. I put my back into it because I sleep on my back.
Really? I'm a side sleeper.
I mean, I usually fall asleep on my back, but I wake up on my side, so I don't know what happens.
That's the dreams. They're flipping you around like an omelet.
Oh no, don't even get me started on omelets.
All right, well, we better get to bed, and all of you listeners better get to bed too. We hope that you sleep well tonight and have sweet dreams.
Sweet dreams, everyone.
Until next time, good night.
Good night. If you're someone who fell asleep listening to this episode, boo.
No! You can't say that.
Yeah, I can. Wake up, the episode's over.
No, I'm stopping the recording.
Okay.